One of the great things about him and why he was such a fan favorite, because a lot of people would say he transcended sports in a lot of ways with the emotion that he poured into the game. And we don't see that nowadays. I can think of just barely a handful of players that really show emotion. Like Ludwig Åberg, for instance, is another one that they have glorified as just being super even-keeled all the time. The perfect demeanor. And what's interesting is that Dr. Lee believes that that's the exact opposite. That is not the way that you would want to be on the golf course. That is not the mindset that you want to have. That you should allow yourself to show emotion. You should, because that is natural as a human being. That's what connects us. And that's what connects the audience. Now, this might not resonate with some people right after the Ryder Cup, because you're going, hey, the last tournament that I saw was the Ryder Cup, and that was phenomenal. And they were going nuts. They were yelling F you to the crowd. It was incredible. Yes, the Ryder Cup brings that out, but that exploits exactly what I'm talking about. Where why isn't every golf tournament like that? Why isn't every golf tournament players absolutely pumped up to be out there playing and to show emotion throughout the round? Good shots, bad shots. Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cook, and on today's episode, this is a special one because this is the last one of 2025. I'm going to be taking a couple months off and coming back in January of 2026. So that being said, this episode being the last of this year, I wanted to talk about something that I had a long conversation with Dr. Lee Piccarello this week in regards to the golfer's mindset. And just want to talk to you guys in regards to, the difference between what we see now, what gets glorified now versus what we've had in the past, and where there might be a disconnect between the audience or fan base to the actual golfers themselves. You might disagree, so stay tuned and definitely enjoy this episode. And before we do dive into the episode, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So first off, Devereux Golf, folks. You can go to devereuxgolf.com, utilize the promo code PullHookGolf20 at checkout for 20% off your entire order at devereuxgolf.com. And then Rokform, you can go over to rokform.com. That's ROKFORM.com. Utilize the promo code PullHook2025 at checkout for 20% off your entire order over at rokform.com. Now let's get into the episode. This episode is all about the golfer's mindset. And as I got into this conversation, this was actually the topic of the conversation I had with Dr. Lee Piccarello this week during our coaching session, where we go through and he coaches me on mental mindset, performance wise, and just really understanding how to perform under levels of pressure, how to callous the mind, so to speak. But in particular, this week was a lot about, how hard you work to tone down your emotions on the golf course, and he believes very much so in there's a pyramid to his teachings. And next year, he's probably going to be one of the first guests that I have on the show in 2026, because I want him to talk about some of these things. But when you're in the right mental performance state, you want to understand your audience. You want to understand your environment while you're out there, in addition to obviously the story that you're telling yourself. And one of the things that came up is just how different it is right now, and how the kind of no emotion is the standard within the golf world. So there was many times this year, in fact, that I heard broadcasters talk about Scotty Scheffler, that because he's so even-keeled, you never see emotion, that is how you're supposed to be on the golf course. That he is the epitome when it comes to what you look for in a top-level mental mindset for a modern golfer. And we kind of see it across the board now. there's so many guys that lack personality. I mean, LIV Golf took a lot of the guys that had big personalities, right? Like a Bryson DeChambeau, for instance, who interacts with his audience, that is more of an exhibitionist, so to speak, when it comes to interacting with the crowd, showing them his game, and really feeding off of the crowd as well. Back in Tiger's era, I recall even hearing back then around people putting him down for showing too much emotion on the golf course, too many fist pumps, too much aggression out there in terms of, and you know, I say aggression, but really, I mean, one of the things that Dr. Lee brought up, he's like, and Matt, he was almost doing it to the crowd when all of a sudden he was so in tune. If he heard a click from a camera, he'd stop his downswing and everybody would go wild and it would show up on ESPN later that day. Look what Tiger Woods did. Again, he was able to stop his golf swing in the middle. But as he's talking about it, I started to realize that he was spot on with something in particular, to where, you know, golf before Tiger Woods was always pretty boring. If Tiger wasn't in the final group on Sunday or making a charge or even playing in an event, it was like, I used to joke around all the time that watching golf was like, it was very easy to take a nap. It's the best sport in the world to take a nap and wake up and they're on the 18th hole in the final round, and you know, they're finishing out the golf tournament. So what does that mean? Why is that? Because why was it when Tiger was in contention, nobody was falling asleep? Everybody was locked in, everybody was engaged. And the more we talked about it, the more it's become this, hey, you need to be one specific way, and that doesn't work for everybody. And I feel like as we've glorified the people that are just even-keeled all the time, that don't really show emotion. And part of this conversation was stemmed from the Ryder Cup. He's like, Matt, why is it acceptable during the Ryder Cup that all these guys show all this emotion, but in a normal tournament, we don't see that. We don't see that kind of emotion. And everybody talks about, and even him not being a big golf guy, but being a big sports person and understanding what the rhetoric is from broadcasters and so forth when he does turn on a PGA Tour event, for instance. And even on LIV, like, the emotion, there's a little bit more character, there's a little bit more exhibitionist in LIV, I feel like, for the players, because they're looser. They aren't as tight. They aren't as serious, so to speak, as a lot of people like to say. Now, you could think entirely differently. No, there's so much money on the line that they're so serious about it. I mean, there's differing opinions from both sides when it comes to that, and strong opinions. So I don't want to start going down that path as to LIV PGA Tour during this conversation. This is more about the fact that Tiger, one of the great things about him and why he was such a fan favorite, because a lot of people would say he transcended sports in a lot of ways with the emotion that he poured into the game. And we don't see that nowadays. I mean, I can think of just barely a handful of players that really show emotion. Like Ludwig Oberg, for instance, is another one that they have glorified as just being super even-keeled all the time. The perfect demeanor. And what's interesting is that Dr. Lee believes that that's the exact opposite, that is not the way that you would want to be on the golf course. That is not the mindset that you want to have, that you should allow yourself to show emotion. You should, because that is natural as a human being. That's what connects us. And that's what connects the audience. So when we look at the fandom and people being so interested during the Tiger era and golf growing so much, one of the big things was that he connected with the audience. Nowadays, players are not at that level with showing emotion because it has been shunned once again, I feel like. because of the rhetoric, because of the things that are said by the broadcast teams and in the broadcast booth, glorifying the even-keeled as the perfect demeanor. And they couldn't be more wrong. And that's where I started to think as I'm having this conversation with him. I'm like, damn, I'm like, you're right. Like, that's why whenever Tiger plays, everybody is locked in. Now, Tiger was a generational talent, but Scottie Scheffler is a generational talent. There's a big difference between how the audience feels about Tiger Woods versus how they feel about Scottie Scheffler. There's a big difference there. And the big difference is the emotion. What Tiger did with the audience, with the fans that were out on the golf course, night and day. Now, you could say that Bryson DeChambeau is that way. And look at his YouTube channel, right? He's got a ton of audience members because that is a factor to him. That matters to him. And in order to perform your absolute best, in the words of Dr. Lee Piccarello, you need to have a presence with the audience, with your environment, and then with yourself. And so that really brings it to where it's like, wow, who is going to be the modern day personality? Because that's what gets related to it a lot, is the personality side. Oh, this guy has a big personality out there. It's like, no, he showed emotions. I mean, shit, I even remember back in the day, Craig Stadler, because he got so fiery and so angry out there, showing so much emotion, but on the negative side. But I asked Dr. Lee in regards to that too. I'm like, hey, what about the negative side? Like, is that bad? And the answer is no, because you're going to take up more mental energy and bandwidth trying to mitigate that and not allow that to happen. And then it remains, right? You want to let it out and then you want to move on beyond it. And so you see guys like John Rahm plays very fiery and plays really well when he is fiery. So there definitely is that ability. Now, I'm not saying that people have to be playing out of their character, but you look at a lot of guys and you can tell that they bring down the emotional level. And I even think to my own game over the past several years that, like, man, when I was a kid playing high school golf, I was emotional, good and bad, to where, like, I would throw in a fist pump. I would get excited when I would make a putt or hit a great shot. And I remember specifically that it was our last match of my senior year. My mom was actually out there walking the golf course watching me for 9 holes. And I'm in a match, and it came down to my match as to whether or not we would win and win our section. And sure enough, it came down to the 18th hole, which was a par 5 at Conklin Players Club. And that 9th hole, little dog leg left down the hill, got there in 2, but I had about a 50-foot putt from the front left side. There was a big hump in the middle, and the pin was back right. And I just knew it coming up to it because I had so much emotion going on at the time. I'm like, I'm making this putt. Everybody was around, so everybody's standing on the green, our team, their team, the coaches, the few fans that were out there. Like, my mom was still walking down the cart path. And I literally get up there and I hit a putt, and immediately, for some reason, I knew it was going in. I lift the putter, I start running, I do the fist pump as soon as it went in the hole. And everybody went nuts from our team. The other team was devastated. We ended up winning our section that day. And it was just an incredible moment. I remember my mom screaming and yelling. So it was a really cool moment that I really haven't talked about. But I started thinking back to that, and I was talking to him about it. I'm like, man, like, I think about that. Like, man, when I played with emotion, like, yeah, I was better. Like, I had more of those moments to where, like, playing so even-keeled and so forth, there really isn't that euphoric moment to where you just go, and have these big, huge moments. Even if it's just going out and playing, I feel like, man, he's spot on. Like, need to show more emotion. So that's some of the stuff that I'm going to start working on myself, is just freeing myself up a little bit to not try to mitigate that emotional side. Because as he mentions, that's how humans connect, is through emotion. So if you're going to connect with other people, and this game is going to continue to grow, and professional golf is going to get more engaging, we need more people out there that are going to show emotion. That it's not just the mundane, tap it in, little wave to the crowd. Oh, hey, I'm here. Yep, just made a birdie. Cool. It's like, no, like let's start to see that emotion come out. And if you get angry, you get angry along the way. But it's that moving on and moving past that in a very short amount of time. That's the piece that matters. So my question is, are we ever going to see the excitement of a Tiger Woods again? Or has it just become this boring mindset where they're just going to go out there and be even-keeled the entire round? That is the new norm. Everybody thinks that is the perfect way of being on the golf course. I tell you what, I don't want to really live in that world, because I really want to live in the world where we are back to having fun, entertaining moments. You know, even Phil and Tiger, we were spoiled with. Tiger showed his emotion on the golf course with his play. Phil was a showman. Phil, if he had a crowd around him, man, he was going to pull off that shot. He was going to risk everything. He would give the little fist pump. I mean, and then you look at, and he also brought up Rory McIlroy. You see the emotion after they win. You know it's in there. Why are we not seeing that during the round? Golf would be a hell of a lot more interesting if we got to see that emotion throughout their play, not just at the end after a victory. I want to see that. And it kind of sparked something in me where I'm like, man, yeah, you know what? I haven't played with emotion in a long time. Like, I'll get upset here and there, but like the other side to it is important too. Getting excited when making a birdie, getting excited when you make a big putt, getting excited when you hit a good drive, instead of just nonchalantly being like, oh yeah, I hit a good one. Like, let's start to see that emotion out there and start to get back into the glory days of golf where we did have a Tiger Woods, we did have a Phil Mickelson, we had others. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I hope to see moving forward as I look to do that myself. Now, with this break coming up, training is not stopping. 5 a.m. comeback is continuing. And really, it has become a lot bigger than the game of golf. I will just say that right off the bat, to where like golf is kind of secondary right now within all this training, getting healthy and everything. But I know that it will come back, because golf has always, for me, gone in waves. Like, I could go without golf for a while, and then all of a sudden I'm obsessed with it. So I know that it's in a wave right now to where, you know, I don't want to define myself just within the game of golf, and it's bigger than all of that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you know, some of these things like a golfer's mindset and showing a little bit more emotion, getting a little bit more into what I'm doing, I think that's going to go a long way. And I could only hope that you guys agree. And let's hope that we get a phenom that actually has a lot of character, goes out there, plays with emotion, and we see it. And we get back to golf being entertaining versus just relying on great play in order to be the entertaining factor. Now, this might not resonate with some people right after the Ryder Cup, because you're going, hey, the last tournament that I saw was the Ryder Cup, and that was phenomenal. And they were going nuts. They were yelling F you to the crowd. It was incredible. Yes, the Ryder Cup brings that out, but that exploits exactly what I'm talking about. Or why isn't every golf tournament like that? Why isn't every golf tournament players absolutely pumped up to be out there playing and to show emotion throughout the round? Good shots, bad shots. Now, I get it. A lot of the pundits are going to say that golf takes place over 6 hours. You can't have these massive ups and lows. I disagree. And that's where I'll leave that for tonight. So, without further ado, last episode of 2026, of 2025. I will see everybody in January 2026. If not sooner, we shall see. But, folks, do take advantage of the promo codes for Devereux Golf, which is pullhookgolf20 for 20% off, or Rokform.com, which is pullhook2025, and that's 20% off. Take advantage of those, and until next time, I will see you all on the flip side. A-Town down. Peace out, everybody.